Hello, everybody. My name is Divsha Bhatt, Technology Editor for Gulf Business, and I would like to extend a warm welcome to you all on this special webinar today, where we're discussing the future trends in the digital transformation in the region. This is hosted by Gulf Business in partnership with Xerox. So, across the Middle East, as governments are diversifying their economies, more emphasis being laid on digital transformation. Driven by national vision and ICT goals, public and private sectors are building great strides in robust digital infrastructure. So although the seeds of the digital transformation was sown earlier in the Middle East region, I think the pandemic has accelerated the progress. Migration to cloud and automation are a part of digital transformation journey. However, people have concerns about the cloud transition, about the cybersecurity and data protection and user privacy. So, to address these concerns of the region, we have in here our special esteemed guest today on board who will discuss and address these concerns. So, we have here Mr. Raid Hamoud, Head of Digital Services for Xerox Emirates. Welcome, Mr. Raid. We have Mr. Mahmoud Salem Alalawi, Procurement and Supply Expert and Researcher. Welcome, Mr. Mahmoud. Mr. Verno Givers, Regional Manager at Mimecast Middle East. Hello, Verno. And we have in here Mr. Ahmed Adli, Senior Director of Cloud Computing Leader, EMEA Oracle. A big welcome to all of you and thank you for joining us today. So before we begin, a quick reminder of the format and facilities that we have. During the session, please feel free to post any of the Q&A in the chat feature and we will take it up with the panelists. Also, please follow Gulf Business on all the social media platforms, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram. So beginning with the session, Mr. Raid, I would like to ask, during the pandemic, there has been a clear acceleration of digital transformation in the region. As I said, the pandemic has just accelerated the progress. So how has this transformation impacted the Middle East region? What changes has Xerox witnessed in the past 1 year?
Yeah, good morning. Hi, everyone. Thank you for, arranging this event. Yes, certainly the pandemic has accelerated the digital transformation in the region. This is becoming like a key objective for business today. And, we all found ourselves across the world that we have to adapt to 100% working remotely from home. So that means that we need to transform from physical to digital platforms for communication and meetings. We have to transform from lots of paper-based transactions that are happening on a daily basis to digital transactions. And we found ourselves also in all organizations across the world that we need to access lots of information, tons of this information remotely. They were, before the pandemic, accessible in our offices, could be on our desktop machines, could be physically on paper, could be on different platforms. And we found ourselves that we need to access all these information suddenly and remotely. So that is driving the digital transformation big time. And most of the organization found also themselves that they need to also consider establishing lots of new workflows for business that was not considered before. So during the last year, we have seen so many changes. One of them is the virtual meetings platforms are becoming the venue for the communication, the main venue, likewise what we're doing now. So it's like, no physical communication like before. There are the need also for the single repository of information and content with all types of content, because again, being in the offices, we used to have access to different platforms, different application, and different source of content. And also the need to transform our day-to-day transaction. Our contracts need to be digital, our signature need to be digital, and lots of workflows need to be digitized. So that was a key change that we have seen during the pandemic last year and this year. Also, organizations are spending lots of investment for security of automation and collaboration platform. For us in Xerox Emirates also, we've been experiencing the big change of the implementation of IT projects from being resources physically to the customer side to remote implementation. And that was a big change for us. That helped us to even better, as a positive side of the story, to better utilization of resources and time management as well for the resources. I would also bring some of the recent reports by IDC survey for the CIOs in the Middle East that majority of the companies are actively looking to re-engineer their processes and develop long-term strategies for transformation and automation. With workflows being a top priority implementation of a new technology, such as robotics automation, such as low-code platforms, such as artificial intelligence to drive and increase productivity and efficiency. So that will definitely, help organizations to transform, and it will support these initiatives definitely.
Great. But rapid technology adoption is also driving faster the 5G and cloud deployment. Would you like to add something to this, Ahmed?
Yes, I think I agree with all the points that Mr. Wright shared. If I can add to that perspective, what we see lately in the last couple of years, a lot of digital transformation initiatives that was categorized under the umbrella of nice to have or good to have, let's say, all of a sudden became crucial to the businesses because they found out that they cannot wait for 1 or 2 more years before they have approaches how, for example, to implement new models of business that is taking social distancing as a key concept in the business model or in delivering their service, for example. So we started to see areas like the new normal social distancing and what it impacts of contactless service providing. I mean, every customer or every entity now is thinking of how can I run my business? How can I revamp my service delivery platforms to provide this contactless experience, not only to their customers, but also to their employees, for example. The second area, and I think Mr. Wright addressed that already, the remote working. Remote working from the perspective, yes, we are going back to normal. Many of our businesses are already working normally from offices, but we are not back 100%, and that no one in the region is expecting a full return 100%. Every business now is thinking of how they can use digital platforms and digital technology to avail a hybrid model. The word hybrid is becoming very, very popular now. That like, okay, we don't need to be in the office like 5 days per week, for example. We don't need to do every business meeting or every activity face to face. Then how you can have a seamless experience between the physical and the remote working experience. The third point I would say, it's very much related to the impact of the pandemic as well, is how you keep the touch with the customer. A lot of businesses were very comfortable in the old days that the customer is visiting me in the office, he's coming to the shops, he's coming to my point of sale, he's coming to meet me face to face. But that's not possible 100% as we said. So how can I maintain a continuous customer touch through the different channels? If the customer is coming through my web platform, I want to link that with his experience when he calls me through the call center, and I want to link that with the information I got when I meet them face to face. How can I have this 360 about my customer? Regardless if it is a physical interaction or a remote interaction. The other area as well that is getting a lot of popularity, and maybe we will talk about it in some of the future points that we address, it is related to more and more process automation. People were shocked on the amount of paperwork that we were circulating when we were all sitting in the office and all meeting face to face. But then all of a sudden they figured out, oh no, we cannot still use that paper. Everything should be automated. And I'm not talking here about just emails and so on, but I'm talking here about end-to-end process automation. How can I make sure that a project, for example, from ideation phase until the board of director approve it, it is all going through a seamless business process that is being reviewed and approved and discussed through an automated process. And then last but not least, I think what made a big difference when it comes to the impact on the organizations in the last 1.5 years, a lot of entities figured out how important information and data is. This has always been a priority, but I think in the last couple of years, it became very, very clear that with the proper data, with the proper information, businesses and decision makers can take more well-informed decisions to deal with this crisis management situation, if I can call it like that, compared to another entity that was taking decisions intuitively, like, oh, I think that should be the way, or I have done it like this before and we should do it like this. Because that's a complete new paradigm and needs a lot of analysis of where my risk is, where my exposure is, where the benefit is. So we have seen a huge acceleration in the area of more well-informed decision-making process.
What has Mimecast witnessed in the past year, Venu?
Hi, Disha. Good morning. Thank you for having us. Yes, I think I have to add on to Rayet and Ahmed there. I mean, I think communications and meeting platforms and everything has moved online. It's sort of the new normal already for a lot of organizations. But I think a bigger challenge as well that organizations have seen is that also employees' personal lives has moved online. So what that means is, I'm using my company issued laptop to do my online shopping or do online entertainment. So I think, there are also unprecedented areas of new risk that has evolved. As organizations have shifted and moved to the cloud, they've also increased their attack surface. And they're always not prepared because it's seemingly unprecedented, and they were forced to do so at very short notice to support the remote working. And that has caused or introduced just new risk, which, of course, for a lot of organizations struggles to build an in-depth defense strategy where they can actually cater and understand where the risks are when they move to the cloud. I mean, if you think of an exchange world, an exchange platform being a single platform that you manage with Active Directory, and then you move to Office 365, we've got a whole new collaboration platform where we run a state of email security report every year with over a few thousand respondents. And majority on there, or 96%, said they saw an increase in Slack and Teams usage, 70% increase in email usage, etc. So I think this impacted and introduced new risk into the organizations. And then we also seen a big increase in terms of brand impersonation, because more and more organizations are moving digitally. Their brands are being used, and of course we're trying to call or get employees to log into fictitious websites, etc. So specifically in the security landscape, I think there's been a massive transformation, and like I said, it has introduced new challenges for a lot of organizations, and trying to deal with this and making sure that employees have relevant training from a remote working. We've seen more than 50% of the respondents in this survey that we ran didn't have any form of remote working training, just to be able to adapt and understand. And of course, with a topic where you have a lot of vulnerability and sensitivity, attackers are always going to exploit that. and that's the best opportunity for them to do so.
Would you like to add something, Mahmood? Especially with regards to the role of procurement sector, how is the role of procurement is accommodating the digital transformation, especially in the public education sector?
Yes, thank you for having me here on this webinar, and I think the experts here have said a lot. But yes, procurement had to adapt, or maybe even at some points we need to be leading this transformation within the organization and going towards first handling the pandemic, and second leading the digital transformation within the organization. So if we talk about digital transformation within education sector, as you all know, it's about improving the functions, operation to satisfy our customers. In our case, it's teachers and students, and to ensure that we are having proper technology to be used to satisfy their requirements. So some researchers suggest three main areas for the digital transformation within organization that we had to take care of as procurement within overall education sector. I think either it's public or private, it would be the same. So we had to concentrate. We have to concentrate on students' actual experience, as well as the campuses environment, the teaching and learning methods. And as a procurement function, we have, as I said, we have to be proactive and not only adapt or reactive to those requirements and to this transformation. And this starts from digitizing our own operations within procurement in support and collaboration with our partners from the industry, enhance our customers' experience, as well as being able to deliver the new requirements or the emerging requirements from our stakeholders. This might need additional knowledge for the team within procurement, exploring new markets, new technologies, new providers for those services, and also using advanced sourcing methodologies. As procurement function, we have to be linked with our organization strategy, just as same as any other major or important function within any organization. We have to consider some points before we go for the digital transformation. I can mention some here. For example, we have to identify the areas of the institution where we can go digital, which areas should be digitized, and which areas we shouldn't touch, which is needed as a priority, and which can wait for later stages. Connect everything and connect all our partners, all our stakeholders to create our own ecosystem within the organization and bring everyone on board, starting from our staff, students, and also our external providers from outside. Also, going for the digital transformation will need us to roll out or to introduce new business models and new business processes, where we have to ensure that those new models or those new initiatives are linked to our main function, which is education, to enhance our overall experience of our students and our stakeholders, if it's staff or even the vendors from outside. I can say that this is something that we need to take care of, and I leave the floor to the other colleagues.
Thank you, Mr. Mahmood. So, as I said earlier in my conversation, so automation is a part of the digital transformation journey. So I would like to know from you, Raid, with regards to intelligent automation, how are you accelerating digital transformation with intelligent automation? How does Xerox ensure end-to-end automated workflow?
Yeah, Divisha. In Xerox, Emirates, we've been starting this journey at very early stages. Xerox is being considered as a print vendor. However, it's not the case anymore. We've started our services business more than 15 years back. So being ready enough for what happens during the pandemic, that we can see the both sides of the challenges from the what we have already digitally transformed with a majority of the customers. It's already in digital space where we can leverage our expertise in terms of content management platforms, document lifecycle management, workflow management, and even digitization of a huge backlog of paper. At the same time, we, with using some of the analytics experience and tools, we've been identifying the gaps and some challenges between the day-to-day manual paper-based transactions and the digital ones. Being in that position and seeing the challenge from both sides helped us a lot to even support our partners and customers with their journeys. So we can see what they print on daily basis and what they are printing for. And at the same time, we see what are the other core business applications are being used for. So I can tell you that lots of organizations, as a typical example, all organizations almost, they have their core business is managed by one of the core business applications like ERP, CRM, and so on and so forth. However, there are these organizations, usually they receive lots of external information and transactions that need to be processed. So these transactions can be received either through portal or email or sometimes physically. And like invoices, like delivery notes, like contracts, purchase orders. These types of contents are created by third party, external party, and received by the organization. A majority of the organization before the pandemic, they were like processing this manually. They need to verify this, validate, and process for the core business applications, the payment system, the ERP system, and so on and so forth. So this is like a situation where it mixes part of the process is being completely digital in the core business application, and at the same time having big part of it as a manual process that involves, I would say, human intervention and transaction. We are helping our customers by identifying these gaps, the requirements for automation of that part that is being done manually today. We are mapping these processes. We are re-engineering and optimizing these processes on documents, and then we offer the proper platform to automate this and provide the integration between this part and the core business application. So that really is helping our partners and customers to avoid any manual transaction anymore and manual intervention or paper-based. At the same time, we're reaching with our customers where they have all their content that is being received externally or generated internally in one repository, single central repository, where they can usually access remotely and complete their transactions. We are complementing this with lots of tools for digital signature, for example, tools for business intelligence to create some kind of reporting and dashboards for even the management, so they can have some kind of predictive analysis for their even business decision KPIs to measure the performance of the people within the organization and how these services are being delivered, whether it's external or internal. So it's I would say complete journey. We started from the manual transaction to the automation, re-engineering of processes, automation and integration, and then the intelligence part of it as well, if that makes sense.
Would anybody like to add their views on the automation side?
Maybe quickly, in addition to all the areas that Raed kindly mentioned, there's one more area that we see a very strong growth in the adoption and consideration for that, which is the RPA, the robotics process automation part. And this is impacting the way that customers are looking into automating their processes. I mean, most of what we looked at when we discussed the process automation is about when the process starts, how it can go smoothly. But RPA also is becoming into the play or coming into the play because it helps to speed up the initiation of the processes. It helps to reduce the manual work. It helps to reduce the labor needed to automate these processes. It implements some of the rules that can take, for example, let's say an invoice that will end up going into the ERP, like the example Raed mentioned, and then apply some rules to capture the key data from this invoice and automatically input that into the ERP to kickstart the process. That helps a lot converting this physical papers part into input for a digital form that can go smoothly through the process. The other area in the process automation as well that is coming into play is AI, artificial intelligence. We have seen this because some of the Oracle business solutions, like the software as a service part, is addressing a lot the ERP, CRM domain, and so on. So one of the areas, let's say, like expenses, process for expenses claim, for example, it's a very typical process in the enterprise, where me as a manager, I get 20 requests per day of expenses submitting by my team. Rather than going through each and every one of the 20 processes and spending time analyzing the content, is it right or wrong? Is the invoice attached or not? Is it the same value or not? We now implemented AI as part of this process, that it goes through the pattern of how am I as a human being approving these expenses, what I'm checking, what are the rules that I'm following. And then the AI on the next times learn from this data, learn from these actions, and then the following requests, it apply the same rules. And if the expense or the process in general is compliant with the checks that I'm doing, it approves it automatically. Only if there are deviations, only if there are anomalies, it highlights that and goes for the manager for a manual or human check. So I end up as a manager getting 2 out of the 20 per day, which is huge saving in the time and the higher efficiency for the manager. So RPA and AI is two key areas right now coming into the play with the intelligent automation of the processes.
Thank you, Ahmed. Thank you for putting out this RPA and AI, which is again a part of the digital transformation journey. Would you like to add something, Verno?
I think maybe just specifically on the AI topic, it's been a buzzword, machine learning and AI. I think over the last few years, we've heard that a lot, and it's been used flippantly, but I think it's made massive advances. You know, we don't see organizations just relying on, AI and machine learning for specific functions, call it being security maybe, but they definitely use that to understand, how they could automate certain things, and how they could potentially, secure the organizations. There's nothing to stop an attacker to use some form of AI and machine learning when they do their reconnaissance on organizations to perform an attack. So at the same time, what we look to do is to build like an identity graph of an individual to understand what is normal behavior versus anomalous behavior. And that allows you then, with the AI and machine learning, and building out this graph, we understand that, who you are communicating with. Maybe is it the first time that you're communicating with this individual? Is it the first time your organization is communicating with this individual? And then just understanding those patterns, and then use something like a dynamic banner to update that employee. So for instance, the risk could change based on the type of email that you receive as an example. And if other employees might mark this as dangerous, that banner could go from potentially dangerous to malicious, and it turns red after it's been delivered into your inbox. So just building that, identity graph, and then understanding also things like sharing information. If you inadvertently add an email address onto a confidential email that you're about to send out, AI once again can help you and warn you to say that this recipient wasn't part of the original threat, as an example. So there's great advances when it comes down to the AI and machine learning, for sure.
Thank you. Well, no, it's very nicely you've taken it from the artificial intelligence to the cybersecurity angle. But talking about it, how was Mimecast leveraging artificial intelligence and machine learning to secure the businesses across the Middle East region?
I think, I've already mentioned that, and I think the big thing really is to be able to incorporate this more and more into your security strategies. And as Ahmed mentioned, there's various other places where AI and machine learning is playing a role in organizations. I think the important part really is that the attackers are making all kinds of advances, and like I said, especially in a reconnaissance phase, we've seen that they're using some form of AI and machine learning, and for most organizations are reactive in terms of detection and technologies and strategies that they've put in place. So I think that the machine learning, the AI, really just gives you that advantage of knowing that we don't have human intervention there. It gives you immense amount of scale, and it continues to learn over time. So these identity graphs can then start giving you visibility as to where are your riskiest employees, what sort of behavior is normal versus anomalous. You can then start to understand where the risk is sitting inside the organization, and based on that, you can then start to offer various training or education to those specific employees as well. So I think the most important thing is to start incorporating some form of AI and machine learning, building, like we do, an identity graph that could warn the employee in terms of information coming in, specifically if you have things like man-in-the-middle type of impersonation attacks, where they are very sophisticated, and for anyone in the human eye or the naked eye, it's really hard to detect that, especially if you are on a mobile device or if you are remotely. So to be able to get a big red banner that warns you versus a blue one that might tell you there's potential risk in it versus a yellow one or a green one. I think just the fact that they change dynamically doesn't mean that you have a standard banner that sits on top of your emails to let you know that this email has originated from outside of your organization. The fact that it does changes dynamically even after it's been delivered into your inbox does create much better awareness, and it means that employees are not getting desensitized of the same message that is sitting on top of their emails, which they receive every day.
Talking about this powerful disruptive technologies like artificial intelligence, or be it machine learning, these are helping businesses gain a competitive edge in the market. But there are some region-specific challenges, you might be facing. So do you have to say anything about this one?
Yes, cloud adoption, there might be local specific challenges and there might be global specific challenges as well. When I think more locally, the first thing that comes up is your data protection laws. So local legislation, things like NISA, DESC do play a role. So data sovereignty, if you are moving to the cloud, you are storing personal information. Where is that stored? How is that stored? Those things do play a role. So that could be one of the first challenges. The second challenge could, as I mentioned earlier, could be your attack surface. So some organizations might realize that the risk is too big to make the transformation right now due to the attack surface growing, or they don't have the resources or the skills to deal with it at the same time. The third thing is budget, of course, making budget available. And then, like I said, having the resources to deal with these technologies. If we move to Office 365 world as an example, it's a vast platform that contains so many different applications, and of course having the right resources and skills to manage that and making sure it's optimized and secured is another big challenge for organizations. So I think, just in terms of overcoming those specific challenges mentioned earlier, defense and depth strategy, really important to ensure that you don't just have like a cloud monoculture when it comes to security. You don't just rely on native security of a specific cloud platform, understanding the risk, of course, if the platform is mission critical to the organization. Also, resiliency. When we move from an on-premise world into the cloud, we ensure that we always have built our own resiliency. Now we're 100% reliant on a specific vendor, their uptime, their availability. If it is mission critical, what is the failover in terms of that? And then lastly is the data recovery process. I think, if you do face any data breach or downtime, are you able to access critical information? Are you able to recover the data at the same time? So making sure that we still have the backups that we used to have and not, once again, relying on a cloud monoculture or putting your eggs in one basket type of strategy. And I think, that brings to the point that it creates fragmentation within organizations. So this digital transformation means we onboard different point solutions. Are these solutions able to talk to one another? What type of security or integration in general do I have across my security ecosystem? And not just deploying a specific solution which is isolated across the rest of my ecosystem and they can't talk to one another. So that's something else that organizations should consider when they move to the cloud and they're looking at specific vendors when onboarding.
True. What would you like to add, Mr. Wright, to this, talking about region-specific challenges?
I think Berno covered lots of these things here, but in terms of, I would say, the cloud challenges is, we can see it mainly in the government and semi-government. Moving to the cloud is really a big challenge. They can, as Berno mentioned, that there are lots of benefits from moving from on-premise to the cloud. However, still, I think the journey will take some time until we, manage. That will start, moving forward, having some of the cloud services being offered in the region or locally is also will help a lot. But I can say, lots of these being like there were some resistance happening, especially in government and semi-government, due to the sensitivity of information and content. So, but can tell you some of big part of our customers are moving to the cloud today, and we already have some solutions implemented for them on the cloud.
Thank you, Right. I think Mr. Mahmoud has some good points to share with us.
Actually, I would say that they are mostly advices, especially to the government entities when they are moving towards digital transformation or moving to the cloud solution. Where as government, you understand, just like any other sector, we do have our own regulations, as my colleagues here mentioned. So those things need to be identified prior going and taking any decision. Because from my experience, I have seen lots of projects that started to be implemented, and then they faced the issue that those are not going together or aligned with the applicable regulations. And one of the gentlemen here mentioned, Mr. Warno, NISA, and we have the TRA, who regulates the cloud and all the IT related projects. So those things need to be considered before we go for any project, and even during the budgeting phase. Second thing, the total cost of ownership. Before we go for any digital transformation, or before we make the decision to go for the cloud, I think we need to consider all the aspects of the project. So either if it's comparing to the on-prem or going for on-cloud solution, we need to understand all the related costs. Either it's support, or either it's the licensing cost, or either it's we talk about the internal resources that we need to hire, capable and resources that can handle this on-cloud solution, or is it going to be outsourced to the same company who will provide it? So all these aspects need to be considered before we go to any decision as part of this, just to avoid any failure. Because sometimes we will have a solution that's provided to us by a certain vendor. It's very nice, and yes, it will improve and enhance our processes and operations. But then we will be surprised later on that there are lots of obstacles that after moving for a certain time that will stop us from completing the project, and then we cannot go back even to our start point. So this is one point. The second point, I think, talking about the cloud and the digital transformation, also considering the internal people, and I always emphasize that the people are the most important component of the whole operation. So even with all these solutions of AI, machine learning, and other digital solutions, still the people are the main centric and our main assets in any organization. So they have to be capable to handle and to deal with those systems, and we have to be to make sure that the people are with us within this change, because it's major change within the organization once we move and roll out the new business processes. So they have to be aligned with us. They have to be in the same boat, in the same journey. We cannot move with one way with digital transformation and keep our people, especially the end users and the departments and even our stakeholders, if we take about procurement, for example, away from this plan from the beginning. So we have to ensure that we are planning to train them, to get them on board, to engage them within this transformation. Why we are making this transformation? It's just make them understand that it will make their life easier. If we talk about the processes, it will not complicate their lives. Well, really, it shouldn't complicate their lives, and it will support them to have more time for innovation, for creativity, for maybe strategic thinking, and some other areas as well.
Thank you, Mahmoud. Those were some great points from a public sector point of view. So going back to the question, Ahmed, what are the region-specific challenges that Oracle sees in implementing the new technologies that you have?
I think the team summarized the challenges that we see in the region quite well. I really like the points about the skills part. It's nice to have the technology, but do we have the right skills that is needed to adopt this technology or not? Significant part of the success around digital transformation and cloud adoption needs to go to invest in our teams to have the right skills to do that. And I think that's what Mahmoud was alluding to when it comes to the people dimension. Werner discussed a lot about security and budget, which I totally agree that these are 2 points that usually surface up as one of the key challenges that is coming up in this type of projects. However, if I would add a couple of extra points around the challenges specifically here in the region, and I'll be very, very transparent here. I feel sometimes that many of the organizations, when they are undergoing digital transformation or cloud adoption, they are chasing a moving target, meaning in the beginning of the project, here's what we want to do. We put the plan, work towards that, but then halfway through, you figure out that either because of change in mind, change in management, change in priorities, the ultimate objective of the transformation project is changing, which is putting a lot of challenges and increasing the failure percentage, unfortunately, in this type of projects here. One of the very, very strong recommendations that we give to organizations that do your proper study before we start, identify what is the first phase objective. We're not saying it's the ultimate objective. The first phase objective, fix that, lock that, let's work towards it, let's achieve it. And then we pause once we reach that, and then we evaluate what would be phase 2, phase 3, and so on. But keeping changing halfway through the transformation projects will end up with a lot of failures. And the second point that is also unfortunately quite common here in the region is when we are undergoing some of the digital transformation projects, we are trying to adapt the technology or twist the technology to do what we are doing now, rather than being open in looking at, okay, how this technology can optimize the work the way we are doing work, how it can transform not only the technology, the digital part, but how it can transform our business processes or the way we are serving our end customers or the way we are conducting or running our business. Because there's a lot of new ways. I'll mention one very popular example we have seen lately. A lot of entities that are going through digital transformation, they just think that digital transformation is about building more mobile applications or digital chatbots or stuff like that. This is just a tool. But the way you incorporate that in the process, the way that you need, for example, as a bank, to change the process to accept that things are being done digitally and without a physical customer visit to the location, that's a new process. That could need even new, I don't say regulation, but some change in your policy, change in your acceptable rules to conduct business. And that could really help you leverage the value of digital transformation and can help your end users or employees and so on to really see a difference. This new digital channel or this new way of doing business digitally is really making a difference for them. And then the last part quickly is related to, and I think Mahmoud touched on that, regarding the change management. Again, we sometimes see that in order for our people to adopt and accept more the digital transformation, we might need not only investment in the skills, but we might need some sort of reorganization, change in the org structure, maybe creating some new teams that are acting as catalysts to adopt this digital transformation, rather than going department by department saying, you tomorrow have a digital transformation initiative, you need to do 1, 2, 3, 4. You need to think differently. The role of Chief Digital Officer is becoming one of the very popular roles right now in many of the organizations, who's someone who's evangelizing the concept of digital transformation into the organization, not just a vendor or companies going and talking to the customers around, oh, this feature in the technology is very nice, take it and adopt it. Without the proper internal buy-in, that wouldn't go anywhere when it comes to digital transformation. Also, the alignment between business and IT. I mean, we didn't touch about this part. Sometimes I see the digital transformation initiative like an IT initiative. I guarantee you that these type of projects, 90% will fail, because IT alone, regardless if they have the most brilliant technical people who can decide about the right technology, the best project plan, whatever, they will not go anywhere unless they are very closely aligned with the business, and they have joint objective and they have buy-in from the business to take this project forward, because there will be resistance. There will be challenges, there will be some technical issues, there will be some business issues, and both needs to have the full buy-in to take this project forward. So those are some of the typical challenges that we see in the region here for similar projects.
I think we have holistically covered all the challenges. But talking about the technologies, do you think the Middle East is set for the rapid growth, be it cloud or be it any other technology? Is Middle East ready to incorporate these technologies?
Yeah, I think it's more than ready. I would say for many reasons. First, there is the mindset open for new technologies and open for innovation. And if we speak about countries here in Gulf region, UAE, for example, there is a lot of national initiatives, I mean, coming from the top government officials that are motivating government entities and private sector to adopt this new technology. Having a dedicated ministry for artificial intelligence, for example, I don't think this is happening anywhere in Europe or in the US at all, but it's here in the UAE, for example. Building or investing in this in smart cities in the region here, and the huge infrastructure that's being built. What is happening in Saudi, in NEOM, what is happening in Qatar for Smart Qatar is all great initiatives here in the region. So yeah, in terms of readiness, I believe there's a lot of potential here in the region. The second part, and I think Raed touched into that, from a technology perspective, I think the major technology players also are directing huge investment here in the region. You see the examples of Oracle coming up with 2 cloud regions here. Microsoft is coming up with 2 cloud regions here, AWS in Bahrain, and so on. So you have now between the Gulf and Saudi, all the major cloud vendors, all the 4 top cloud vendors globally, they have local representation with local data centers and local regions, which comply very much with what Werner was referring to regarding local regulations from DISC, from NISA, from ADDA, Abu Dhabi Digital Authority, and so on, as well as the other regulatory bodies across the region, Saudi, SAMA for monetary markets, and the local regulations from the different entities. Those are also very good catalysts to help customers and organizations in the region here to adopt this. So yeah, the region is all set to take off. Plus the communication infrastructure, which I think you touched on in your very first question when you mentioned the 5G. You know, the fiber infrastructure, the communication infrastructure, plus now the 5G rollout is helping a lot of use cases that was almost impossible before to become true. All the use cases around IoT, for example, were suffering a lot because of the communication infrastructure. But now with 5G, these are becoming in reality and becoming possible. And that will help also the region to progress quickly.
What would you like to say, Raid, on this? How do you see the adoption in the Middle East region with regards to automation?
Yeah, I see it's happening big time, honestly speaking. Being there in this business for a long time and working with big customer base in the UAE and leading lots of projects in digital transformation. Yeah, I can see they are ready, and they are ready more than any time before. And the good thing that the technology helps today, the infrastructure helps in terms even of cloud, and more importantly, working with the right partner also helps the customers to achieve their goals, because my colleagues here mentioned lots of very important points to take into consideration. Being a partner, technology partner in the marketplace, we've been touching and working on so many things with regard to the implementation services, and that, as Ahmed mentioned, is like, you know, involving business is very important. Without the business, no goals will be achieved, and you know, that's one side. The other side is the change management is an important thing that take into consideration, because without preparing the end users, the back office support, the third party that could be involved in these projects, equip them with the right knowledge and the training and the knowledge transfer to be able to use this solution is very important. So I would say there are 2 parts of the success story, any success story: the very good technology and as well as the very good implementation services at the same time. So back to your questions, I think we are moving ahead very quickly in the region in digital transformation, and our customers and partners are really ready for that big time.
How ready is the public sector, Mr. Mahmood?
I think that we are leading this digital transformation, and yes, in the public sector, and because of the support from our leadership, either here in UAE or in other countries in the region, there are big investments that are being done, as my colleagues have mentioned, in the infrastructure to support this digital transformation, as well as equipping the people or the locals within the local markets with the proper training, opening new majors within universities to support this, plus putting the policies and regulations to adapt and to accommodate this transformation. So as Mr. Ahmed mentioned here earlier, there is a need, yes, to change some regulations to accommodate this digital transformation. If we talk about e-approvals, or if we talk about people not having to visit the premises, where we still face some issues in some entities, but overall the government is putting lots of investment, and there are new regulations every day that we are seeing to support this digital transformation. And for some services, they are fully now provided digitally, and no need to visit any entity, which have changed actually the culture. And here I would like to say that COVID-19 pandemic has accelerated this, and this is what was mentioned at the beginning. This gave an acceleration for the transformation, and it was, I think, an add value to the process of digitalization, and it was a blessing also for the companies who are working within the IT, where they had lots of projects to support the transformation of the public sector and private sector organizations to go to this digital transformation. So in public sector, yes, we are leading, and the aim of the government here in the UAE to be number one in everything, and digital transformation is one of those things, and we can see this in all aspects of our life around us.
Yes, of course. Like, who would deny this? The Middle East region, especially the UAE, has always been a step ahead in the adoption or in the digital transformation compared to the global regions. Moving on to the future of the role of procurement, what do you think what does the future hold for the procurement sector function within the public sector?
Well, I think just like any other sector, and being part of this community, you can see that today the experience of people in shopping or purchasing became as easy as a touch of a button for most of us now. And those customers are the same people who are working within the organizations, and they are the same decision makers within the organizations, if we talk about education or even the public sector. So the expectations are higher now. So those people we are, as a client, myself as a stakeholder before I be a CPO, those expectations are translated or transferred to the organization. So the end users or the stakeholders do not accept complicated, lengthy procurement cycles and extensive delays within the process. They expect just on-time services. So in order to be proactive and to respond to those emerging demands from our clients, we will definitely need to evolve from our traditional procurement and go to the future, which have started already. We are living in the future, and we are looking for things better. So we are moving away from traditional procurement operations and introducing a seamless digital experience for our stakeholders. And this should start from the selection or requesting the items in the beginning, moving to doing the technical evaluation, obtaining the quotes from the vendors. How do we select? How do we do the sourcing? How do we select the vendors? And later on, awarding the projects to the selected vendor, where the end user shouldn't suffer from this process, just as per the previous or traditional stereotype about procurement process. So stakeholders, even they are internal or external, they are expecting us to be connected, or they're expecting to be connected to a digital platform where they can deal with things like big data, AI, machine learning, and this system should be able to handle data analytics. And we should have an agile process that will enable this transformation and to support them as well. Because in procurement, we are also a support function for other departments. We need to support them and enable them to do their own transformation, either it's digital or overall transformation that's currently happening because of the fourth industrial revolution. And procurement, in order to do that and looking towards the future, we need to consider having procurement innovators, I would call them, instead of having traditional procurement buyers within the departments of procurement, where we are looking for intelligent purchase, predictive analytics, and in order to deliver the requirements and the expectations from our clients. We should also be customer-centric, and either it's internal or external, but mainly here for the internal customers. and we have to put ourselves in the end user's shoes and feel their pain, understand their requirements in order to provide them with the experience that will support them rather than hindering and putting lots of obstacles for them in order to receive their requirements. And this is how we should build our system when we talk about the digital system. We should also be vendor-centric and think about partnership rather than having a normal relation with our vendors, and we should consider them as partners to support the functions within our organization and also to support them for their sustainability of business. And here I have to mention the sustainability and procurement, where we cannot ignore it in any area, because this is coming now, and we cannot just go away from sustainable procurement and sourcing. We have to ensure the application of the sustainability within the procurement and our procurement strategy, which should be linked with our partners, either it's internal or external. We should consider all the risks, and we should consider the social, economic, environmental agenda of the organization and the country and our partners. We also should consider transparency, ethical procurement, human rights, which are essential components of the sustainable procurement. Now, if we talk about the future of digital platforms of procurement, and I would say that, of course, we have to consider when we do the process automation, we should consider having robust technology that enable us to have end-to-end solution, starting from the beginning of purchase requisition until the delivery of the project itself. We should ensure having proper integration, the right integration. It should be, as again, end-to-end integration beyond procurement, not only within procurement, but also if it needs to be connected with finance department, with the HR department, with the other end users within the system. And this could be supported by simple integration with cloud. We talk about cloud or other technologies like blockchain when we talk about approvals, end-to-end approvals. We should also consider having value-added services within this portal, where we can maximize and ensure that we maximize our procurement return of investment for whatever we have invested within those systems. We should be having the artificial intelligence solutions to enable us to work everywhere, anywhere, wherever we are as a staff, which is now general trend for all the employees after the pandemic, especially where the AI and machine learning are deployed to have seamless and invisible experience for our clients to support them for their operations. So I would just finally say that to have this agile operating model or this agile procurement operation with the digital transformation, we should consider the structure. We talk about the structure of the department. We have to start with the people, the structure, having the right people within the organization, align the structure to this digital transformation, decision makings, and transform or make sure that we are aligning our decision making within the system and supported by the required governance change, the culture of the organization, change management, and consider the change management to be the main element, one of the main elements for this change. Also, understanding the capacity for change within the organization and our ability to manage those changes within the organization. Do we need to have a consultant to come on board and support us to do this change, or can we do it internally? And then the performance management, because for sure it's different to manage and to measure the performance of our team from the manual process or normal practices, traditional practices, and when it goes to the digital platform, it is much easier, but still we need the people starting from the managers, the management, the HR, and even the staff to understand how this works and how their performance would be managed and measured later on. And finally, I would say that the leadership, I kept it till the end. It's the most important thing to have proper leadership, proper support from the leadership, the clear direction where we want to go to hit the target that we want. The vision should be very clear for any organization leadership, and this should be transferred to the whole team within the business or across the whole business units. They should be engaged, they should be involved within this transformation in order to ensure that we are having successful digital transformation.
Very well explained, Mahmoud. Would you like to add something, right, to this?
Yeah, I think Mahmoud covered lots of the points there. Yeah, with government, as I mentioned before, engaging the customer and the business and the digital transformation journey is very important. From the day we start any project or any engagement or any initiative, the understanding of the business requirements, talking the business language, understanding the business language. So if we're talking to procurement, we need to understand the procurement needs. If we're talking to finance, if we're talking to HR, if we're talking to any other line of business or organization or entity within the organization, we need to understand that. It's very important for us. Understanding that will help us to map the processes, re-engineer, optimize these workflows and processes, and bring the right technology to help in automating these processes. It's an important also to help us with the moving with the agile approach, as mentioned by Mahmoud. Is like, you do like a day-to-day development and getting the feedback, and at the same time fixing the process during the implementation at any stage, and also sharing the knowledge with the end user and the customer. So that helps to reach to a successful implementation by the end. Also understanding the business needs will help also at the end of the project to manage the change with users, manage the change with the back office, manage the change with even external customers or third parties. And when we use certain technology, we make sure that it will fulfill the business requirements, and it will have the right and the required infrastructure within the customer base. So that's an important in the digital transformation journey. It's important also to consider the changes during the any project implementation. So today we have certain business requirements that has been processes already mapped, re-engineered, and implemented and automated, and there are suddenly there are some changes in business, whether it is like restructuring of the organization, change in business model, change or merging of organization, split of organization. If you have the right understanding and the right technology, which is usually enterprise, that will help a lot to adapt with these changes and make sure that you're fulfilling your customers' needs and requirements with the right services at the first phase and with the right technology at the second phase. So changes, we faced this several times, and if you're not ready with your platform and understanding of the business, that will be a big challenge to manage. On top of that, as mentioned by Mahmoud, intelligence at the end of the story is an important thing for all of our customers. Today, we are doing the base work for process re-engineering. We do the automation part, and we need to do the last part of it, which is the intelligence part, which is, I would say, is very important and needed these days. We need to understand what this business about and what is the future of this business and what we need to do this year, next year, and have plans moving forward. And the need for technologies like AI, machine learning, NLP, robotics is helping us a lot to achieve these goals with our customers. The need to extract information automatically from systems or from physical paper or physical content, and the need to manage repetitive requests by, configuring robots for some of the business requirements, and the need to identify some information or characters or records with artificial intelligence is also helping us to achieve lots of our customers' goals and objectives in our projects.
Talking about implementations, which brings me to my next question. Can you share any real implementation success stories?
Yeah, we have many of these stories, but I think I'm in a position to share one of the stories that covers lots of what we're talking about today. The customer journey from the beginning till the end. We have one customer in leading government health authority. We have been engaged with this customer for quite some time now. We started the journey by identifying 70 processes is being managed manually, and those processes need to be mapped, need to be re-engineered, and need to be automated to start with. So that customer was like having, if I'm a patient, I need to go there with physical documents, pile of paper, and go and to the officer there and start the process of verifying the documentation and all that stuff, and then go with the complete process. If there is something missing, the patient has to go and come back again and all that stuff. And then in the back office, there are communities, they meet doctors and they discuss the case, and then they go all this manual and takes long time. And time is very important in these cases. So we've entered this and we started doing the automation at the first phase. We introduced the reading the Emirates ID to have the full information, then integrate with third parties, hospitals, and capture the information or the required documentation for the cases, and then changing the users in the back office. Change management was a key for the success of this project. 7-8 doctors sitting around one table and discussing one case is not anymore there. They can still sit in their clinics, and then they can access this automatically, and then they can review the cases, verify them, and they can make their decisions there. And not only that, it's linked with also third parties, people or agents for travel, finance support, all that stuff, global or overseas hospitals integrated with the system to deliver the required service. This is all now under one on one platform, and it's being done from A to Z, from the beginning of the journey till the end of the journey. It's all automated. Moreover, we had during the pandemic to with the change of people not being physically can go to these places and start their process. We had to integrate with public services portals. Now all the patients can log in there, and they can enter all their information, and they can send their request through this portal, or even for the insurance claim as well. So this is being started now from public service portals that goes to the back office. They do the full process, and there are some I would say KPIs there in place to make sure that this is happening on time. Again, for patients, time is very crucial, and the whole communication is happening between all stakeholders within any case until the case is closed. We've also in this project we've managed to use the latest technologies of analytics and business intelligence to provide the management of this organization with the right information, real-time reporting and dashboards and information, so they can make decisions in terms of if they need extra budgets, how these cases are being managed, to which countries, to which places, so they can make better decisions. We had also to provide some technologies around, as mentioned by the team, around robotics. There are some repetitive jobs that are happening and does not require integrations, that require to configure some robots to read certain information and data and bring it to the system in order to complete that process. I can tell you that with this project, we managed to move our, this client from fully paper-based transaction to fully automated, I would say, transactions that are happening with zero paper today. Change management was key, because we have to make sure that from the patient logging in and starting the process to the users within the organization, to the back office support, to the third party, to even global partners, are really capable and aware of what they have to do within this process completely.
Would you like to share some success stories from Mimecast, Verno?
Yes, for sure. We one entity's family-owned business, a group of companies with 15,000 employees. I think one of their biggest challenges were, first of all, malicious emails getting through. So just their risk and exposure to cyber attacks. If any email data get lost, or IT had to keep email flowing and restore it to high availability at the same time. They also wanted to ensure their brand, so just reputational damage, financial risk due to any cyber attack or successful cyber attack on the organization, and visibility and just understanding risk across the entire organization was a big challenge. They have pockets and ways and ideas of how they could surface the risk, but just having more of a holistic view has been a really big challenge. So in this instance, we break it down into 3 different zones, essentially. So zone 1 just being your perimeter, so understanding what threats is coming in and out and securing that perimeter. Zone 2 looks at inside your perimeter. So this looks specifically at insider threats or threats that transverse from east to west. It also looks at the awareness training and cybersecurity training program. This is a very big topic for a lot of organizations in a remote environment today. And just deploying something that's really effective, where your employees are engaged, you can test their knowledge, you can test things like sentiment, but at the same time, just understand what the risk is. And when you do test those employees, you can actually test them with real life examples. So if I want to test someone in procurement, I can actually do that with a real life procurement example, which just gives the organization that real feel and to understand how employees will respond to that. And then are they actually improving their awareness and education over time? And then zone 3 specifically talks to things beyond the perimeter. This is seemingly more new territory and how the threats has evolved, but it's much easier to go and impersonate your brand than to try and break through your firewalls or your current security. So what this organization faced is that new examples of websites coming up using their brands. So securing that specifically as well, making sure that they can detect, they can be aware when any new website comes up, being at a website that looks similar to their current domain with a slight change, or being at a website that's completely unique in terms of the domain name, but they're using their imaging, their logos, things like social media, etc. as well. So making sure that they have awareness and visibility around this. And then bringing this all together. Another part of that is DMOC as well. This specifically looks at spoofing. So anybody can use your brand today and send email on your behalf to your customers and suppliers. So making sure that that doesn't happen at the same time. And then bringing this all together just to understand, where is the risk? What sort of exposure do I have in the outside world, beyond my perimeter, inside and outside my perimeter? And then building and breaking that down into understanding individual risk inside the organization. So looking at the specific employees' behavior, how they're responding to training, what are they doing day to day? Are they clicking on links? Are they visiting malicious website? Is my training education happening? So you can start training information. And of course, you can then start benchmarking yourself. So if I'm in public sector or this organization doing a lot of retail as an example, they want to know what their peers are doing and how are they benchmarking against them. And that means they've got a baseline and they know that how they can improve from there. So just having more of a holistic approach and then building more of a cyber resilience strategy across their ecosystem was really important. And then lastly, just integrating with things like APIs. What's important, I mentioned that earlier, if you have security just maybe at your gateway to stop bad emails from coming in, that needs to be able to integrate with your firewall or with your endpoint security. Because if they see something happening on the endpoint, they want to be able to talk to your gateway security at the same time. So a lot of organizations have a best of breed approach. So they've got a multi-vendor approach, but you do lose a lot of security when you don't have these platforms converging or sharing threat intelligence across. So a good example of that would be the firewall sees malicious traffic on the network, it notifies the gateway, and automatically all email flow for that user is stopped at the same time. And there's no human intervention with these things. So you don't physically have to report it or spot it and then go and manually make the changes to block that. This happens automatically. So some big form of it is automation as well at the same time. But I think the holistic approach and then making sure that we've met the positive business outcome, which was, decrease the risk of financial loss and data loss as well. And then, of course, removing the risk for a single vendor reliance on their critical business systems.
Thank you, Vanu. Would you like to add something to this, Mr. Ahmed? Success stories from Oracle?
Yeah, in terms of success stories, I always like to bring one of the big names in the market and one of the small and medium enterprises to show that these technologies that we are talking about here and these approaches are applicable end-to-end in the market. So one of the big names that's probably very familiar to most of the people in the event today is DP World, which is the leading conglomerate in UAE in logistics business and cargo and managing ports and shipment all over the world. DP World is processing, if my memory serves me well, more than 70 million containers every year. So huge business that is spanning across I think 90 different ports all over the world. And DP World went through a journey lately of this digital transformation that we are talking about. They wanted to optimize the processes that they are running and touching everything related to their employees, related to their suppliers, related to their customers as well. And COVID was a major trigger for that, because they felt the need to optimize their infrastructure. And they went the route that we have been talking about for the last maybe one and a half hour here. They went the route of taking cloud as the platform for this transformation and consolidate their systems. But more importantly, the area that I wanted to maybe focus on, since we are talking a lot about digital transformation in the context of process automation, they wanted to start by themselves. I mean, they did in a business in the ports, for example, a lot of paperwork. I mean, the customs with the suppliers, the shipment companies, a lot of paperwork. They have a very interesting approach. They said, we will start with ourselves. We will digitize and automate our processes and make sure that every input for our systems is digital and every output from our system is digital. And they implemented a approach that each and every one of their employees in the field is scanning every document that they are dealing with, either through mobile phone or through a handheld device, and submitting it electronically to the internal process that goes through their ERP or HR or CRM and so on. I always like to put numbers, because this shows the value of what we are talking about here. And only in the financial area, these guys did huge saving when it comes to the time they are processing some of their processes from 15 days to 3 days. The cost of their invoice processing dropped 60% after implementing this digital transformation initiative. So that's one of the large example, one of the large organizations that are adopting this approach. The other one quickly that I would touch about, I'm a big fan of startups and how startups can use digital technology to change the way we are doing business. And one of the popular examples around here in the region is Tamara. And Tamara is a startup who used who had a very nice idea about buy now and pay later service that they can offer to different businesses. And they developed a solution on top of the Oracle Cloud with that. And very lately, they have been picking up very well, up to the extent that they raised a fund of $110 million from one of the global investment funds. Those are starting point are 3 young guys here in the region using digital technology with a brilliant idea. They are all working remotely, like we were discussing today. They don't have big infrastructure for them, but the cloud and digital technologies enable them to achieve that actually. So a lot of great examples that we can keep sharing all over the day.
Thank you, Ahmed. Let's move to Mr. Mahmood. Would you like to add something, Mr. Mahmood?
I would take it from different angle here. I think lots of success stories were mentioned, and we have seen that, but I hope that we can see the measurement of this success to be done through the end user or through the customer. So right now, most of the competitions or the awards are given to I wouldn't say all, but most of them are given based on the submission that's done by the entity that designed that system. But I think measuring the satisfaction of the end users or those who are using those systems to really give their feedback about the success of that system would be really great addition to really valuing those systems. So this is what I would like to add, and I think my colleagues already gave lots of success stories.
Thank you so much. So we have now come to the end of the discussion. We can now open the floor for questions. I would request the audience, if you have any questions, please send it in the Q&A session. Meanwhile, we have some questions. It reads from Mr. Shiraz, how is digitization different from digital transformation? What then makes digital transformation different from other types of transformation? It is an open question if anybody would like to answer. The difference between digitization and digital transformation.
It's a very popular debate, I would say, but just in summary, I would say digitization is just turning something into bits and bytes or zeros and ones, if we can call it like that. It's more of turning what is happening right now exactly as is to an automated process. So you take the manual way or the analog way of handling documents or handling processes and just put it digitally in the system. But digital transformation is way beyond that. Digital transformation is mainly about the transformation part. It's mainly about how we change the way we are doing this process and what new technologies that comes into the picture that can help us change this way. I mean, we touched it during the last 1.5 hours on so many bits and pieces of technology that was not considered when we were talking about just digitization. So the examples of blockchain, the examples of AI and machine learning and chatbots and mobile, these are all technologies that are transforming the way that we are addressing the same business needs or same business requirements. So I would say big difference. And I kind of disagree that digitization is phase one of digital transformation. Actually, digitization mentality could end up to be a trap that we are just trying to carry things from here and move it to here, and it is not the case. It kills all the innovation that comes into the play when we think with a transformational mentality rather than just an automation mentality.
Thank you, Ahmed, for taking it up. Would you like to add something, right, to this?
Yeah, maybe coming from a document company, digitization, I agree with Ahmed, is not phase one or could be part of the digital transformation. However, we all know that in any organization we have lots of documents are digitally born, and there are lots of content is unstructured or available in different format. Physical could be in our desktops, in our machines, and shared folders, and so on and so forth. So digitization is like an initiative that's happening in certain areas. I want to maybe convert this physical documents into digital, scanning it, and keep it in digital format. I want to have an initiative to have like an ERP solution or core business application that will take care of my payment process, or that's again a part of I would say could be a digitization initiative by itself. The global thing, again, I agree totally with Ahmed that digital transformation is a complete journey that starts by transforming our information content and our even users and people from the normal manual, could be process or separate silos of applications within the organization into one complete platform that is being supported by a complete digital transformation plan and the right technologies and tools for that.
What would you like to say about this, Vano? The difference between digitalization and digital transformation?
Yes, I think, they've said a lot already. I think they covered it really well. The term, digitization is the process of leveraging digitization to improve a business process, where your digital transformation is it's a transformation of business activities, processes, products, models. So it looks more holistically, leveraging things like opportunities within the digital technologies as well.
There is one more open question by Mr. Mohammed Mansoor, if anyone would like to take it. It reads, is there any plan to push the digital marketing communication in Gulf market? It's talking completely on the digital marketing communication side. However, we'll wait for a few more questions. If you have any, we'll just look into it. I think we have come to the end of the Q&A session. Thank you so much, everyone, for being a part of this special webinar. Okay, Shiraz says thank you to Ahmed and Raid. Thank you, Shiraz, to you too for this question, and Verno as well. So thank you so much to the panelists and audience for taking time to listen to us. So with this, we come to the end of the session, and thank you once again, everyone, for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.